Good for me. Yeah, that's for sure. To start diving that late is just absolutely nuts. It's unheard of. So the fact he's gone up and done that 10-metre list like that is absolutely fantastic. He should be so proud of himself.
Let's
Amazing.
have a look at his final dive, because it was this score that sealed the gold medal for him, a score of 103.6. Talk us through it.
Look, basically, you can't even see through his legs. That tight position is so nice and tight, so he spins so fast. In fast motion, you probably don't even notice that he's done a 4.5 somersault, but he looks for that water, grabs his hand, and completely disappears, like pretty much a perfect dive.
And it's interesting, from side on, you don't realise how much he's splitting his legs until you see that angle.
That's right. It's so they can see the water. Not all divers do it, but pretty much 98% of divers split their legs in the tuck shape, especially when you add on more and more somersaults. So for a front 1.5, you would not split your legs like that. He is over the moon. When
you are diving last and you know you've got to do something really special to catch Ryland Weems, in this case, who was setting the pace for Canada, what are you saying to yourself, and how would he have... What's his thought process going into that, knowing what a tough dive it was? You need to forget about the others, which is really hard, as you can imagine. You just got to focus on what you need to do, not the bad stuff. You think of the good stuff that you need to do, and that's the only way to do it, because if you think of other people, you can forget what you need to do, and it'll fluff it up, which you don't want. It was that dive that snatched the gold medal away from Ryland Weems, because actually he had put himself into the lead, hadn't he? And a really... Again, at the world-class standard, 100%, as you can see, from not just England, all divers. It's amazing to watch, and it's so lovely for the youngsters to watch these guys and hopefully aspire to be them in one day. Fabulous stuff. We've got, in the synchro events tomorrow, who will we see? Yes, we have the 10-metre, which will be Lois and Kyle, and then we have Andrea and Noah on the 10-metre. So we have 2 guys in for that. And then on the springboard, we have 2 people as well, which will be... Oh, in fact, we're not sure, because Matthew Dixon might have... Yes. May so we have to pull out. Yes, we're going to see if he's still in it. Confirmation there. But do you think more medals to come in those synchro events? Of course, of course. These guys are untouchable with the mixed synchro. Just a reflection on Matty Lee. We saw in some of his dives him stand to the side of the board. Why is that? OK, so basically, when you do synchro, you are on the edge of the board instead of in the middle. So the dives you get used to doing in synchro, you just get used to being on the end of the board. So tomorrow, when he goes into mixed synchro, he goes, I go on the right or I go on the left, yes. and hopefully doesn't dive with somebody else who says, well, actually, no, I like that side. Which we've all been in, and that's so difficult. And I remember doing it a few years ago, and I used that side, but I never used to count. So I then changed sides, but then counted, and like it's just all change. It's really, really weird. So you just got to be really flexible and just get on with it. The secret to any great relationship. Absolutely. Exactly. Tonia, thank you so much, and thank you to the divers there for a sensational 10-metre platform competition. Oh, the scene at the moment, but trying to fight back. Tonia Couch is here in the studio alongside me. Tonia is here because 10-metre platform is your thing, and that's what we're going to see the men's final. Can you tell me, what is the skill and how do you get it so right when you're diving off a 10-metre board? Well, of course, practice makes permanent. Not always perfect, it makes permanent. Oh, that's good. Yes. I haven't heard that before. Well, because if you do a dive wrong over and over again, you know, that's not perfect. You've got to do the right stuff to get it right, so it makes it permanent. So we've never said practice makes perfect. You just said practice makes permanent, gives you a sort of body memory. That's it. Now, obviously, it's a fixed platform. There's no bounce in it. You're coming from a great height. In terms of the difficulty of dives, who do you think expect to be setting the pace here? Oh, of course, England. Absolutely, they're going to be straight out in front. The Australian diver, very, very good. He did come 4th at the world event, so he's on top at the moment. But, yeah, well, Cassio Russo, he's called. And in the preliminaries this morning, his score was off the scale. Did he not score, like, 99.9 for a dive? And that is huge. I don't think I've ever scored that in my life, but that is massive. We can have a look at it, actually, because this is what the likes of Matty Lee and Noah Williams will be up against. So basically, he's just done a 4.5 somersault,
which is massive. But you can see, look at his legs, they're so powerful. The spring on that floor, you know, it's not a springboard, it's a hard board, and it looks like he has got a trampoline right on the end there. He comes out, he looks for the water and puts his hands out and just completely disappears. Yeah, and he just walks off like nothing's actually ever happened.
Now, we were due to have another home nations representative in Matthew Dixon from England. He qualified for the final, but unfortunately he's had to pull out through injury.
Yeah, you know, it's been a tough year for him. He's had a few different injuries with his wrist, and now he's actually quite got a sore back at the moment. And I think he's just going to power through, and it's not going to be an outcome that he actually wants. So it's probably best for him to take some time out and rest. But, you know, he still dived pretty well considering, so hats off to him.
But you can see him in real pain there as he got out of the pool. And actually thinking of that, Noah was suffering when he and Matty Lee together won the synchro gold. Noah got really bad cramp, didn't he? Midway through the competition, could barely walk. Matty said afterwards he suffered from cramp a little bit as well. And it's to do with they were talking about the crowd and how much it affects them.
I know, I think there's probably just lack of sleep with the excitement of the crowd and, you know, all the support and stuff. But yeah, I don't think they've ever had cramp before, so that's something new to them. So they probably panicked more than they should do, but they're all right for this individual.
We've had some big success in the diving on springboard as well as the platform. With platform, they have the added challenge of climbing up all those steps in between the dives. And I was thinking, if you were a bit sore, you don't want to have to do that.
No, I know. And to be honest, doing it myself, you don't even take notice of the steps. The steps kept me fit, that's all I can say. There's so many steps, but you just take your time. You go up probably about 6 divers before your turn and just make your way up slowly.
Take your time. You explained earlier as well all the oddities of the way divers wipe themselves off with the chamois. They shower after every dive. But essentially keeping your focus and keeping your courage has to be key to this.
Absolutely. And sometimes when people...
But here in the studio, I'm delighted to say Tonia Couch is alongside me, former European champion, Commonwealth Games silver medalist in diving, because we're heading to the Sandwell Aquatic Centre very, very shortly. Tonia, Jack Law trying to win his 3rd gold medal in virtually as many days. What happened in qualifying this morning, though?
Yeah, I was a little bit nervous watching. As you can imagine, he basically, a little bit of jelly legs. His takeoff had a little bit of a knee buckle, so I think he didn't want to go for it, knowing he wouldn't have made it.
So he basically was meant to dive something.
Yes.
That he didn't then dive.
He was meant to do the somersaults with the twist. He forgot the twist. So I think in his head he thought, I'm not going to go for it, hurt myself, freak myself out, because he's got to do this in the final. So if you see there, the takeoff just wasn't quite right. It was a little bit slow, and there was no way he was going to fit all of his dive in, unfortunately.
But then he gets a score of 0.
Yes, because he's forgot the twist.
So do you think he decided not to do it, or he forgot to do it?
No, you'll never forget. He decided on that takeoff, because when you're in training, you would never take off on that takeoff. You would just either fall in or just stop and start again. And unfortunately, in a competition, you cannot do that.
Now, if this were at the Olympics with a much bigger field and more difficult qualification, he wouldn't have made the final. But here at the Commonwealth Games, he's still made the final. He's going to be diving much earlier than one would have expected. We'd have thought he was going last. If he qualified top, he'd be going last.
I know, but that's OK.
Is that better?
I think so.
If you're nervous?
Yeah, I mean, he's in the final. It goes completely back to 0. So he can forget about this morning and just focus on himself. But pressure is horrendous. It's scary having that pressure on you. And I think there's a lot of pressure on Jack. You know, he's just the most amazing diver. So he's probably thinking, I need to get that 3rd gold medal. But, you know, Jack, forget about it. You know what you're doing.
So he, we would think, is the most likely winner as long as he holds his nerve.
Yes.
What about Dan Goodfellow and indeed Jordan Holden?
Yes, they were right up there, weren't they, in the prelim? And they were saving a few of their best dives for hopefully in the final. But they did amazing, and I'm rooting for them all.
So they will be representing England. We've also got Ross Beattie in there for Scotland.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah, they've done really good today. I went there and I felt the atmosphere, and it was amazing. It literally was insane. The crowd is absolutely packed.
Well, you can see the list of the judges there. Now, when you see the position so that we can hear from the medalists, what a topsy-turvy contest that was. Hugely exciting changes of leaders after, I think Lee led for the first 2 rounds, and then Jack Law went into the lead, and then he slipped down, and then Dan Goodfellow right at the end coming through to pit Jordan Holden. That was extraordinary. And Tonia, overall, what sort of quality are we looking at here?
That was world-class diving. Like, the whole time I was standing up, sitting down on the edge of my seat. It was fantastic. If that event was in a world event, they would be right up there at the top of the gang.
Well, Jack Law, obviously diving much earlier than we might have expected because he qualified quite low down the order, actually put himself to the top of the leaderboard with his 3rd dive. And this got a score of 86.7, an inward 3.5 somersaults. It was the highest scored at that. 2 of those obviously contributed by Jack Law, but Dan Goodfellow taking that 3-metre springboard. How impressive was Jack there in what he said?
Do you know what? So mature. He comes across so well. And the fact that he talks about himself and then bigs up his friends by his side takes a real gentleman, doesn't it? No, he should be really, really proud of himself.
And just a final word on Dan Goodfellow for taking the title here. What will that do for him, and what does it mean going forward?
Well, it will boost his confidence massively. You know, he's had quite a lot of setbacks, so today I think he's going to walk out of that pool with his head held high, for sure.
Tonia, thank you so much. And also just to mention that Andrea Spendolini-Siriex, who was one of those gold medalists already, she is...
Hello and welcome. It's the final day of the European Championship, so welcome to BBC Two. We have a fantastic evening in store with you all the way till 9 o'clock. We're going to see where those final medals are distributed, including Jake Whiteman in the men's 800 metres from the track, of course. But if you were with us on BBC One just a few moments ago, you'd have been watching a great live diving competition, the men's 10-metre platform from Rome. It's the final dives of this wonderful meet from Rome, and Tonia Couch is alongside me watching that as well. And Tonia, just as we left the diving, Noah Williams, who was in the lead from Great Britain, was about to take his dive. So I think we're going to be able to see it now. I haven't seen this yet because we were just transferring channels, so you're going to have to talk me through this.
Amazing. I'm so glad that we were able to watch that, because that's his reverse 3.5, and he kicks out tiny little bit short. Doesn't matter because he doesn't really bring much splash up, so the judges are going to be really pleased to look at that. I'm sure he's going to be still in the first place position.
He is. You're right. He scored 76.5. It moves him back into the lead. And I've just spoilt the surprise for the score. But as this, we just had to run this in off tape because it was as we were transferring channels there. And that is great news, not just for British diving, but for Great Britain, because we've had a fantastic day in the gymnastics, which put us at a gold behind Germany. And that takes us level, and it means that we would go above them on the table. So, and we've still got obviously an evening on the track as well. So we could be going into this kind of like you do better than us type situation when we get to the track. But it's gold and silver at the moment from the diving. So let's go back there. Take it away, Leon and Kat. Very much. That was absolutely brilliant, and I got a bit ahead of myself before because, of course, these medals don't count towards the overall European Championship, but British diving is on top regardless of what happened today. Let's go back, Tonia Couch, to Ben's 6th dive, ending up with a bronze medal today, because that was the one that you pulled out that was pretty special for you.
Yeah, he finished on a high, and he didn't just get the bronze medal. He was so far ahead of that 4th, so well deserved today.
Let's have a little look and talk us through the difficulty and what he was doing here.
So it's not too high in difficulty. I think later on, when he's a bit older, he will learn an extra twist, but he knows this dive is pretty safe. He's so fantastic to watch. The height he gets, he makes that dive so easy. And then he's able to come out, look for the water, grab his hand, and completely disappear for a couple of 8s near the end.
How do you get that extra twist then?
A lot of practice in the gym, from the trampolines into the pit, the dry boards, practice on the lower boards, on the 5-metre. It takes a long time. He might have even been practising back at home right now, but he thought he'll play it safe for the end.
He's had a fantastic time, hasn't he, here? And what a growing up process, you know, for him, this whole championship's been. Noah, you've had a look at, obviously, a silver medal for him. Fantastic. You've had a look at his 4th dive for us.
Yes, so this 4th dive was actually
pretty much one of the hardest dives in the meet. With a arm stand with 2.5 somersaults, so a lot to fit in. Even if you watch it in slow-mo back there, there's so many twists and so little time. But he wraps round, twists super, super fast, looks for the water, because sometimes you can go a little bit short or roll over. So this is tough. This is really, really tough. He comes out last minute, looks for waters and grabs, and completely got the crowd up on their feet cheering for him.
And that, you know, sometimes you say the difficulty, you know, it's more or it's less. You can just look at that, and to the, you know, untrained eye, that looks really hard. And of course, starting with the arm stand at the very beginning, when you've got to be so still in that moment, is just one of the great mysteries of the world, I think, for most of us who don't do diving, how you actually control your nerves and not shaking there on that 10-metre platform.
I was going to say, can you imagine doing a handstand normally, let alone on 10 metre, let alone when you're shaking and nervous? It's a completely crazy situation to do that, and not even forwards, it's backwards. So to fit all that somersault in, pushing off your hands, not your legs, so it's different.
So what was the difference today for you between Noah in silver medal position and the brilliant Ukrainian Sereda then, who took the gold?
I think the Ukraine just pretty much finished every single dive. He was very, very consistent today, and he's so tiny. He just completely plops into the water. And he just, consistency is key when you're in diving. There's 6 dives to do, and if you've got every single dive scoring over 8, then you're in for the winning today.
That was his 5th dive. He ended up with a 10 on his final dive as well, didn't he? And still so young. I mean, you talk about Ben being young, you know, he's obviously got a couple of years even on him.
I know. And the fact that he's got quite a hard list at a young age is so exciting for him. Like, I can't wait to see what he does in the future. OK, we have just got time to help you now catch up with the men's synchronised 3-metre springboard, which happened in Rome a little bit earlier. It's been a bit of a mixed week for Jack Law. Gold in the 1-metre springboard was followed by a mistake in the 3-metre individual yesterday, which cost him a medal. It's the synchro event this afternoon, and he's paired up with Ant Harding. Can he end these European Aquatics Championships on a high with yet another medal for Britain? Let's find out with Kat Downs and Leon Taylor, and we're going to join this with 3 rounds to go.
And Italy out in front now, ahead of Great Britain. Ukraine in the bronze medal position.
Year, like you said earlier, they are so new at this, and to get synchro is hard enough as it is, but to get synchro on a springboard when you have different hurdle steps, different takeoffs, it's hard going, and they've done amazing.
Yeah, they won it by an absolute country mile, didn't they, in terms of their score? Let's have a little look then at their 5th dive, which you've picked out as your favourite.
Yes, of course, a great hurdle step. Jack was a tiny little bit out from the board, but the speed of the spins were exactly the same. You can hardly see Anthony on the other side. And there was no splash, of course, what the judges are looking out for, but the synchro on that was just fantastic. Anthony should be super, super proud of himself. He seems so consistent at such a young age.
He really does, and that presumably will be a partnership which will go on now through the next couple of years. Kat asked the question, how do you catch the Chinese on the world stage then?
Do you know what? It's not that hard these days. These men are catching the Chinese like there's no tomorrow. So never say never, you never know. And I'm sure Jack will help everything with Anthony along his way.
Well, of course, the Brits are the top diving nation at these aquatics championships in Italy, which is a magnificent achievement. And it's been a championship where we've seen youngsters really stepping up to the plate, the likes of Ben Cutmore and, of course, Andrea as well, who did magnificently well. For you, what have you taken from this in terms of the team's performance?
Do you know what? Every single one of them that I've watched has had a smile on their face, and I love that they're not taking this seriously. Of course they're taking it seriously, but they're enjoying themselves.
Enjoying their sport, yeah.
And you can go so far in sport as long as you're having fun and enjoying it, and just remember those moments, you know, because as soon as you go to the next competition, you forget what's happened. So I think hopefully they remember every single moment.
Well, we have really enjoyed having you here, Tonia, over the last few days. Thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I've had a blast.
Well, you've been great. Thank you. And we'll see you again very, very soon. Tonia Couch, who's been helping us through all of that diving, and it really has been a joy, hasn't it, seeing Great Britain do so well out there in Rome. Now, we have a very big final night of athletics for you, but let's just catch up on the day's top stories first. Britain ended the gymnastics.
Diving into glass.
And that, I guess, you know, it depends on what time of day your competition is. You know, the whole thing could have been 2 hours earlier or 2 hours later, or his dive could have been kind of, you know, that dive could have been earlier in his series, and those little things that he really didn't have much control over are the reasons why he shouldn't be too disappointed with himself.
Absolutely. I mean, when you're diving in an outdoor pool, anything could happen. The best divers might not win those days, and the guys that are not expected might win. So it's anyone's game, and it just makes it great fun and exciting to watch.
Well, it does make it very exciting as a competition. But the 5th dive was really where it all went to pieces for him.
Yeah. Well, this dive here, he just came out and he wasn't sure. He made it really, really easy. You know, a long, big throw, but unfortunately he came out and he just looked lost. But, you know, he probably had a knockback from his other dives.
Because that wasn't at the point where the sun was casting such a massive shadow, was it? So
no.
You can see here the way he comes out there.
He comes out at the ceiling. Well, I say ceiling, we're outside, but he comes out of the sky, shall I say, where it's probably just a little bit too early. I think his confidence was knocked after that 3rd round.
And that's where, as a competitor, I guess you have to start to learn to put those things beside or move them to one side during a competition. Tomorrow he's got to go again in the synchro 3-metre. So he's really got to get his head into gear, hasn't he?
He does. Hopefully he sleeps well tonight, and I'm sure his synchro partner, Anthony, will give him a good boost, and they can bounce off each other and forget what's happened and go in tomorrow absolutely killing it.
It's a lot of pressure, isn't it, then, on the other person? You know, Anthony will have seen that and gone, oh, gosh.
Come on,
dear,
Jack!
that didn't go so well today.
Oh, no. Or Anthony might look at it in another way and said, he's saving his dives, he's fine, so fingers crossed.
It's not the first time it's happened, and he's talked about this, hasn't he, about how in 2019 in South Korea in the World Championships, he went from gold medal position to dropping right down the leaderboard with his final dive, and it took him a long time to work his way through that.
Yeah, do you know what, these divers, they're not robots. Some days a good day, some days a bad day. It's probably hard to get over the bad days. It's great when you have a good day, but you remember the bad days a lot more than you remember the good, unfortunately. So that's why it is going to be tough for him to go in tomorrow. Hopefully he sleeps well and just chills out tonight.
Yeah, well, it's important, I guess, the whole process, and that will stand him in good stead if he can get over tonight and do well tomorrow. Well, hopefully, Tonia, you'll have a good night, and we'll see you, not too good, and we'll see you tomorrow, yeah? OK,
Lovely.
You enjoy yourself. We have got one final day of diving tomorrow, and Jack is going again, as we say, with Anthony in that 3-metre synchro. So looking forward to that. Now, after yesterday's brilliant performance by Great Britain's Tom Pidcock to win gold in the mountain biking, today it's the turn of the women. The top 3 riders from the Olympics, all of them Swiss, are in action here. Isla Short finished 4th at the Commonwealth Games and goes for Great Britain. So let's find out where the medals went. We're going to join your commentator, Rob Hatch. With
that result, the women's 1-metre springboard going their way. Tonia Couch is with me here in the studio. Just a reflection on Yasmin Harper. She's 21, but she started diving very late, didn't she?
Exactly, like probably 7 years old is a good amount to start.
And she didn't start till she was 13.
Really, really late. And she's so strong. So she's obviously done very, very well.
I think she came from a background of acrobatics. Is that common?
Yes, it is. And it does help. It gives you the strength, gives you the somersaults, the handstands. It does help in the diving world.
What's more difficult, springboard or platform?
Oh, you're asking the wrong person.
Well, you did both, though. Everyone does both early on, don't they?
When you're younger, you do both and you see what you're good at. It's difficult in different ways. 10-metre, the height is scary, and you've got a handstand to do, so that's hard in itself. But the springboard, you have to time the board, so you need strong legs, the strength. It's difficult in all directions, really.
When it's outside, as it is there in Rome, conditions obviously perfect today. It looked lovely, bright sunshine, no wind to speak of, no rain. But presumably you would have dived in really difficult conditions.
Oh, yeah. I remember when I was doing a handstand on the 10-metre board, they used to have a flag up the top, and the flag did not move because the wind was that strong. So, yeah, it's not nice to do handstands or anything on that board then.
Let's just have a look at Yasmin Harper and see where you think maybe she's developing and can improve to get herself in contention for medals.
Yeah, she gets the height, which is ideal for when she goes onto a 3-metre to add on an extra somersault. The 1-metre, like we said in Commonwealth, isn't actually an Olympic sport, so it's a great warm-up for her. And they don't do many competitions on the 1-metre, so she's still done fantastic, and she's beautiful to watch.
so beautiful to watch. Her toes are so pointed. It's like a synchronised swimmer's toes. It's amazing.
Tomorrow, we're going to see 10-metre platform action, and Andrea Spendolini-Sirieix, who's had such a terrific year, really seems to have stepped up into the spotlight and loving it.
I know, it's going to be exciting tomorrow. Her and Lois are going to be fighting out for hopefully a medal. For both of them, it would be great if they could both get a medal.
Well, Lois Tolson obviously got a gold today with Kyle Katari, your former synchro partner. Just tell us a bit about Lois Tolson and what she's achieved, because she was very young, wasn't she, when she teamed up with you?
I know, really young. We were put together when she was 16 years old. 8 months before the Olympic Games. She didn't eat breakfast because she was so nervous before a competition. So I used to take her into my wing and help her, and she's come a long, long way. And by the time we got to the Olympic Games, she was eating breakfast, having a laugh, and a lot more calmer. And I think, hopefully, she's taken that on for later time.
And I guess also she's sort of playing that mothering role to Andrea, who is still quite young and is experiencing many of these locations maybe for the first time.
That's it. She went for the youngster. I left, and now she's she's not actually one of the oldest, but she's right up there, and she's got to help others, and that's what we do as a team, and that's why Great Britain are so amazing, and it's like one big family.
Fantastic. Tonia, thank you so much. We'll see you again tomorrow for analysis of that 10-metre platform competition. And as she says, we'll see Andrea Spendolini-Sirieix, already a Commonwealth Games superstar in action there. Now, let's just catch up on what's happened so far today, because Top Headline is about diving.
Me in the studio, and we have enjoyed an absolutely thrilling end, Tonia, to that 10-metre synchro. I mean, that's the way to do it, isn't it? Let your opposition think they're cruising into the final dive, the sixth and final dive in the lead, and then take it there, snatch it away.
I know, they did so amazing. They were consistent throughout, and that's exactly what you need to get on top of that podium, and that's what they did. Yeah, they did so amazing.
And the mental state as well, to not panic and think, OK, you know, have we put our dives in the right order? Are we putting the right degree of difficulty here? Just to stick with the process of what you're doing, just try and execute as well as you can. You've got to just stay very calm.
I think the Ukrainians shouldn't have put their hardest dive last, because the pressure really is on. They should have probably put that second to last. But our guys did the right order, they were consistent, and they put the Ukrainians under pressure. Let's have a look back then. And you've picked out the third dive you want to have a quick look back at. Yeah, because that was their first round of the hard dives, and it was probably the easiest dives for them, but they knew they were consistent and they can get it down. Their synchro is so amazing. They get their hips up and they come out, looked for the water, and then that's when they can grab and disappear with no splash. Cutmore and Katari, of course, coming fourth in the Commonwealth Games and just learning about each other through the last few weeks in this process. And that third dive, they would have taken so much confidence from it. I mean, I know the aim of it is to be synchronised, but they really are, aren't they? They are. They're very similar. Their dives are very, very similar. They're similar, like, divers as well. And you know what? Throughout the whole competition, they bounced off each other and they looked like they were just having fun. And I always think if you enjoy something, you're going to do well at it. And that's what they proved today. And this then just came a little bit later. This was the third dive for the Ukrainians. Yes. The pressure was on after this dive. They're very, very young. They look great together. And it was a hard dive, but not the hardest dive of the competition, so they knew they could do well, and I think that's why they put it as their first optional hard dive. Again, though, excellent synchronicity, brilliant entry to the water, very little splash. You know, it was a really, really good dive, and they scored well for it. Yeah, I mean, they're spinning exactly the same time. The time they get into the pike shape, they're so neat, and their feet are so tight together, and that's what the judges will be looking for. Yeah, and that was a score big enough to take them back into the lead. And here we are. This is the last round with GB going first. Absolutely. So this one is a 1.5 somersault, 2.5 somersaults with 1.5 twist, which they are learning to do a few more twists, but I think they kept it steady and safe here for the competition, and that's clearly what took the gold today. Yeah, when I say first, I mean obviously first out of the two countries, but at that point there, you weren't convinced that this would be enough. I know. Tiny little bit of splash came up, but not too much when it's in fast motion. Of course, you see a little bit more when you're doing slow mo. Yeah. But look at the synchro. You could hardly see Ben next to Kyle there, and that's what the judges will be looking at. Very little kind of daylight there, was there, between his legs and Ben's legs. And then here we go, the last round. This was to win the gold. This is a harder dive for them. This is a front 4.5 somersaults, which is brave enough to put this in competition, so fair play to these guys. But you've got to get your hips up fast on the takeoff, and a big, big, long, hard throw. So it did look like they were a little bit short. They came out a tiny bit early, costing them the gold medal.
So when you say coming out early, you mean just before they enter the water,
Just before they enter the water, they came out and looked a little bit too far forwards, and it made them go a tiny bit short. But for young divers, this is a huge dive for them.
Are they communicating at that point, or has all the communication, verbal communication, been done?
All done. As soon as you say 1, 2, 3, go, and you take off, that's it. It's all on to you then individually. But you kind of can see the diver next to you. You know when the dive is in synchro. So one of them coming out might have made the other one come out and do the same thing.
But they are very young, aren't they, the Ukrainians?
So young. The whole of the teams that were in that today were young, so it was anybody's games, and that's why it was really, really exciting to watch today.
Yeah, because there's a kind of natural churn after an Olympic cycle where people may have just hung on for that cycle, then retire, and the young talent starts coming through. Now we're seeing that, and that is very exciting for all these divers to have this experience. But for Britain to have that pair go down so well at this European Championships with so little experience together really bodes well.
I know, I don't think they expected it today. After getting the 4th at Commonwealth, they went in there still enjoying it and do what they need to do. And the fact that they got a gold medal, they must be so, so proud of themselves. This is what hard work is all about.
And I tell you what, Tonia, with a weekend of diving still to come, with 3 golds, 1 silver, 1 bronze, would you say so far perhaps they're even surpassing their own expectations?
They really are. I think as soon as you get that 1 medal, it makes the rest of the team bounce off of that. And as you can see, for Great Britain, they're like one big family. They always cheering each other on. Yeah, I can't wait to watch the rest. There's still so much more to come.
Yeah, really, it's fantastic, isn't it? And you think back to the days when kind of all hopes were pinned on Tom Daley, you know, and kind of that pressure on one person to deliver the goods. Or you go back to Olympic Games a few cycles back where there wasn't a team as big as this at all, was there? You know, it was just a few of you out there. So it really shows, doesn't it, kind of how the sport in the last decade or so has just flourished.
I know, definitely. And it, you know, it helps that the older ones are taking the young ones under their wing to help them, you know, hopefully mentor these guys, keep them calm and teach them everything that they know so it can just carry on flying.
I tell you what, Tonia, they're fast learners, aren't they?
They are. I wasn't that fast when I was young.
I bet you were. OK, we'll chat a little bit later on. It's great, as always, to see you, though. And if you're just joining us, here's what else has been happening on day 9 of the European Championship.
Oh, I'm not sure how much fun it is, beach volleyball in the wet sand. But we've moved from Munich now and we are here in Rome. Well, nearly in Rome. Alongside me, Tonia Couch, 3-time Olympian. It means we're here for the diving. And Ton, it's going to be a really, really good set of finals today. I want to talk to you first about the women's 3-metre springboard. And we've got 2 qualifiers in that final. Yasmin Harper, Grace Reed. They've had a brilliant, brilliant time there. But for Grace, she's qualified here in 9th position because of a dive that didn't quite go according to plan. We can have a look at it now and just talk us through this and just see maybe where it went a bit wrong for her.
Yeah, her hurdle step to the end of the board, absolutely fine, but it didn't look like she threw and went as high as she normally would, so she buried her head and didn't quite see where the water was at the end. Could have been all sorts of things. Could have been the sun reflecting on the water, like she was a little bit lower, but you know, it goes from 0 back into the final, so we're not worried, and hopefully in training she practiced that one more time.
Yeah, for sure. And for someone like Grace, she's so experienced, isn't she? She should be able to come into this and know how to reset. And is that a bit of a challenge sometimes, resetting and letting yourself know that, like you say, back to 0, back to square one?
Yeah, especially on the same day. But she's going to go back, have something to eat, chill out, not think about it, quick warm-up before the final, and I'm sure she'll be coming back fighting.
OK, and in contrast, Yasmin Harper did great. She qualified in 4th position. Really good second-round dive as well. And I looked at this and I thought the level of difficulty at this stage was quite high. But correct me if I'm wrong, you know, can divers put the dives where they want to?
Yeah, you can put them any direction you want. The first one, sometimes it's nice to get it done and dusted and you're safe, so you know you're off to a good start. But she absolutely nailed this back 2.5. It's a high tariff, but she looked confident, and that's exactly what she needs to take into the final. Hopefully she's not wasted her dives in the prelim just yet. But she jumps pretty high. She sees the water behind you, and a blind entry behind is actually quite difficult.
And actually, that dive was the highest scoring dive of the qualifiers, full stop. So that's going to give her some confidence, isn't it, knowing that she is in shape to be able to potentially get as close to that podium as possible.
Absolutely, she's totally in the running to get a medal. But if she doesn't, it doesn't mean that, you know, she's not done amazing, because she's pretty new to this scene. She looks so strong and she's achieving every competition she does. So yeah, she's looking fantastic.
OK, well, the first final we're going to see, though, is the men's platform synchro. Now, Kyle Katari, Ben Cutmore, they're going in this. Now, we've seen Kyle already. Kyle is in a fantastic place because he's got all of these new partnerships that he's having, Ben included as well. I'm confused about where he finds the time to be able to go into this and just practice with the different partnerships and also himself too.
To be honest, I don't know where he finds the time, but he does. He works so hard, and he's had a lot of injuries as well, but he's always fighting back, and he's looking amazing, so I'm super excited to watch this.
Now, for Ben and Kyle, they actually competed together at the Commonwealth Games. They weren't able to get on the podium there, but they were really honest, and they said that their difficulty wasn't enough. They knew that it probably wasn't enough to compete at that level. It's the same sequence of dives here, so how can they change that? It's such a short period of time. They can't change the dives, but how do they make sure they try and be as competitive as possible here?
Yeah, they can't change the dives, like you said, but I think they need to focus on their dives individually and not worry too much about the synchro, because the synchro will come. So as long as they get a good dive individually, the scores are going to be right up there. And it plays with the judges' minds. So I think they'll do fantastic. They're bouncing off each other, and they're a new pairing, so there's no pressure.
They would have been in that Commonwealth final. They would have saw Matty Lee, Noah Williams take the gold there. How much would they have been watching the boys and knowing that, you know, those are the divers they really want to aspire to and emulate eventually?
Yeah, definitely. I think Ben's going to be learning a few dives. He was actually meant to be in with the mixed synchro for Commonwealths. He took a step back just to focus on himself and his synchro with Kyle.
Tuned in, welcome to the late afternoon, evening coverage of these European Championships. It is day 8 and we've just been watching a fantastic 1 metre springboard men's final. Tonia Couch alongside me here, and we're going to look back at some of Jack Law's best dives that got him that gold. But first of all, let's just put this into context. This is not an Olympic event, so a lot of these divers use the 1 metre to kind of get themselves warmed up for the 3 metre and the synchro, and that's exactly the way to do it, isn't it, the way Jack did it today?
That's it. He's going to go into 3 metre feeling really pumped. He looked really calm today, which is a little bit different, obviously, to the Commonwealth Games, because the pressure must have been on him so much. But he looked really calm, and it's just a build-up, ready for his 3 metre.
Let's have a look at his second dive, because that was the dive that took him into the lead. This one here is a reverse 1.5 somersault, 2.5 twist.
That's it. He gets a really good hurdle step to the end of the board, so straight away we knew he was going to do a fabulous dive, because the height he gets, he's so strong. And, of course, he's absolutely beautiful to watch. Look how neat he is. But the spins, yes, it's in slow motion, but even in slow motion, it looks super fast.
It does, because the quality of the diving, you know, when they're all diving well there, you know, those little points that you just mentioned there, you know, the fact that his feet were together, the speed of his twist, they're the things that are giving the judges the ability to give them a little bit more and get them towards the 8s.
That's it. For the divers that lose their legs in the middle of the twist but get a really good entry, they do lose a little bit of mark. So the fact he got a good entry and was really tight got him right up there.
Let's have a little look at his final dive. His 4th dive was actually really brilliant and was one of the hardest, but this was a 3.2, a front 3.5 somersault, and it was coming down, wasn't it, to that final dive. At one point it was looking a little bit dicey, but he knew he had this.
Yeah, this is probably one of his easiest dives. He can do this one pretty simple, but the pressure is on for the last dive, and he did lift his chest up a little bit on the entry, so he was a tiny little bit short, but he had such a lead going into this round. We knew he was going to go home with that gold medal.
And so, because this isn't in the Olympic programme, the 1 metre, you know, you'd think perhaps that this is an event that you might put a more inexperienced or a diver without as much experience into to give them experience. But obviously that's not the way British diving look at it, and they do value these experiences in the Europeans.
Yeah, just because it's not in the Olympic sport doesn't mean that this is still important to these guys, and going home on 1 metre with a gold medal is just a huge achievement. So yeah, I think they all love to do it because it's great fun.
And we're going to see him, obviously, and we know he's Commonwealth champion on the 1 metre as well, because that was in the Commonwealth. What's the difference, apart from the height, you know, in terms of the execution? Obviously, you can get more into your dives. What's the difference? Would they be applying the same technique?
Yeah,
A little bit. Obviously, like you said, it is higher, so they can fit an extra somersault in, but it's harder to control because obviously you're higher up. But it's exactly the same. You're still using the springboard. It's just a really, really good warm-up on the 1 metre for these guys, and I think that's exactly why these guys are doing that as well as 3 metre.
And it's fair to say, isn't it, that the Italian crowd are very much helping their divers, and the scores are kind of eking up a little bit because of that?
I think the judges are taking a little bit of note from the crowd when they're cheering, I must admit, but it's fine. Jack was still up there.
Excellent. Good stuff. Thank you so much, Tonia. Lovely to see you, as always, and we will see you tomorrow for the men's 10 metre synchro, but for now, you can rest easy and enjoy the rest of your day. And now, let's take a chance to remind you of all the top stories from today so far.
Oh, Tonia Couch alongside me. Tonia, a 3-time Olympian. You know about fine margins. 0.3 that Deshawn and Amy there just losing out on a place on the podium. Oh. Gutting, isn't it? But at the same time, so much they can take away from this. And we can kind of go through their dives now. But how do you think they're going to be feeling right now?
4th place is a tough place to finish. And, you know, as we were saying behind the cameras, that they dived so consistent. I thought they were very, very consistent, more so than the Italians that beat them. So, you know, it's hard when you're in a sport that gets judged on, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely so. But there were a few really good rounds from the British girls. Let's look at the 4th round, for example. They were able to execute this dive to the best of their ability. They did all they could do to make sure they stayed in contention here, didn't they?
Yeah, they did, and they had a really good takeoff, which is hard when you've got a little bit of jelly legs. But they both got their hips up at the same time. Their entry was exactly the same. Deshawn a little bit over, so she buried her head at the end, but hardly noticeable, and that was probably their best dive from them guys.
And we just watched Amy's entry here into the water as well. We did hear Leon talk about it was a tiny bit short also. So these are the fine margins, aren't they, that really cost you to get onto the podium?
It does, and they were a little bit lower on the first 2 synchro dives, so that might have cost them a medal today.
And in terms of the 5th dive as well, okay, this is the crunch dive, isn't it? And the nerves at this point to try and make this work must be through the roof.
Absolutely. The pike shape was super, super tight. They came out at the same time, a little bit whippy on the end, but I think they got marked down just a little here. So, yeah, it was really hard to watch from back at home here.
A 4th place finish at the Europeans, a 4th place at the Commonwealths. They have to be so encouraged to know that actually they're working together, still very young and new in their partnership moving forward.
Yeah, they've still got so much more to give. 4th place is still amazing. Of course, they wanted a medal today, but 4th is still fantastic to take away. Such a young age and a new partnership. So I can't wait to see what the future holds for them.
And just very quickly, they were the first to dive. How much does that affect them, knowing that they have to set the bar and raise the bar?
It's super nerve-wracking. They must have been shaky the whole time. Yeah, going first is horrible, but also going last is never nice. So...
Going anything off of the springboard, I'm sure, is pretty tough. And the Germans, they did really, really well, of course. And we said at the top that they were the ones to watch. Tina Punzel now adding again to a fantastic medal collection. And 6th European title for someone like Tina. She's so experienced, and we saw it here today, didn't we?
She did. And I think that's a new synchro partner she's got there. And I'm guessing from behind the scenes, she's definitely helped her because her synchro partner was just as consistent as she was. So super, super amazing.
And their 3rd round jump, you can see that she's the driver. She is the person that's going out there and making sure that they are on point, the execution is on point, and this is what got them the medals today.
Yeah, but it's so elegant to watch, so beautiful.
And the Italians, a few game-changing dives for them. Their 4th round was one we thought, oh, OK, this is now a bit of a game-changer here. They're in their home pool as well. And we speak about how much that actually helps as well, don't we?
Yes, I think the crowd cheered them on a little bit too much, and the judges took off the bit of the crowd there. I thought they got a really good first 3 rounds, weren't they? And then they did mess up a couple of times near the end, costing them nearly a medal, but luckily enough, they managed to slip just in there, just in time.
And we can look here at this 5th round dive.
Look how high they get.
This is still the 3rd round. Bit of a game changer here. You can see it here.
The synchro is spot on.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Like you say, judges don't get the replays. They have to see it for what it is. And to the naked eye, that looks sensational. You start to pick out a few things. But here is round 5.
this is when things got a little bit different. She kicked out and she lifted her feet a little bit too high, so then she whipped over on the end. She needed to come out and place her feet a little bit further away. But we thought at this point maybe our girls could have took the medal, but they were very lucky to get their medal
And I must admit, it's quite telling in the Italian coach's face there, but he wasn't quite sure. And that's a nerve-wracking moment, isn't it? Whilst you're waiting for those scores to come in, especially, you know, a crunch time like this.
Yeah, very nerve-wracking. You could see on the coach's face there, he thought they were out. So I think they were probably surprised that they weren't out and they did get a medal today.
OK, well, brilliant stuff. You're hanging around for sure for a moment still. And we're going to... going back to show you some more table tennis now. Second semi-final in the women's doubles. GB diving superstar Jack Law will be going in his 1 metre springboard final in about 10 minutes. If you've been with us all afternoon, you would have seen Deshamey, as I've named them, as in Deshaun Ben Ashmiel and Amy Rollinson. They finished 4th in the 3 metre springboard synchro, and after they caught up with Cat Downs.
Amy, just seen you guys giving the Swedish team an enormous hug, a brilliant achievement for them, but the finest of margins, just 3/10 in it to knock you guys out of the medal spots.
Yeah, no, we've been quite close with the Swedish girls because we sort of have met them at junior competitions and like a junior elites this year. There was one of the girls was there, so it's just nice to see them again and obviously getting to get beaten by them, but it's nice to see them, so yeah.
Do you feel like your time will come, given the potential that you've shown both at the Commonwealth Games and now here, 2 4th-place finishes, Deshaun?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've got so much more that we can give, and at the end of the day, this is one of our first big senior competitions, so just getting used to it, and this being our first time being outside, or my first time being outside, it's a big change, and I've got to learn to like get used to it, and then eventually I'll get it.
It's been a big couple of weeks, hasn't it? You said at the Commonwealth Games you're a bit like a rabbit in the headlights for the first dive with the sound, the decibel level of that crowd. And then here diving outside, I mean, you've taken on a lot of new learning experiences.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel like all of this I can take away and build up on my career with it. So, yeah.
I'm sure you've got plenty more to come, Deshaun and Amy, you know, the bronze medal at the Commonwealth Games, now coming here for a 4th-place finish. And as you say, you know, you've been up in junior elites with those Swedes, and now perhaps a rivalry for years to come in the 3 metre.
Yeah, no, it's just going to be nice next season when we're back, we're fully fit, ready to just come back stronger next year.
Everyone seems a little tired. How are you feeling?
I'm very tired. It's just been constant on like going, so it's just going to be nice to be able to relax, rest, and get myself back being fit again.
Well, best of luck with it. Not too much pizza.
No, not.
Well done. Thank you, guys.
Well, I mean, I think she deserves all the pizza. And also, I know how she feels. It's exhausting. It has been a really, really long season, but they're going to take so much from this season, Tonia. They're going to think about those 4th-place finishes and think, right, how can we push on from here and know that every single competition now, the aim is for the podium?
Yeah, I think sometimes coming 4th is disheartening, but it definitely gives you some oomph to get home and, you know, train more synchro together. But they're so young.
Yeah.
They've got so much more to achieve.
And they can look to Jack Law, of course, somebody in the team, super experienced. The medals keep on racking up and racking up. He had a sensational Commonwealth Games. Comes off the back of this now into the Europeans, and he's here to really stake his claim.
Yeah, definitely. I think everyone's going to be watching Jack later, including the guys that are competing against him. I think Jack's actually one of the most successful divers we've ever had. Yeah. Pressure's on.
Yeah, pressure's on. And you take a look at Jack's record in terms of the bronze medals from the Olympic Games, the silver medals at Worlds, the golds at European level. This is somebody who is super experienced. It's going to have to be, because we're here now at this particular venue, and the weather, everyone's been speaking about it. He's going to have to pull out some really good dives in a different set of conditions.
Of course, yeah. And I don't doubt that he will. You know, he's going to smash it. He's coming second for the prelim, which is nice because he puts the pressure onto the person that's following him behind.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that guy's not going to be enjoying it too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he's going to absolutely do fantastic. I have every
I'm so proud of him, basically. I'm so excited to see him compete.
And when we think about Jack in this position, he is somebody that's going to have to come in here. Everybody around him knows about his ability. How much do they watch him? How much is he a target? And how much would that then affect his dives to make sure that he nails the execution in terms of the difficulty as well?
Yeah,
She was only 5th after the first dive, but moved her way up into 2nd, was 2nd all the way along until it came to those final dives. And Tonia Couch, sitting alongside me, said, don't worry, she's got this. Mainly because her last dive was her most difficult, but also because you were completely confident that she would nail it.
Absolutely. I know full well, going into that last dive, she felt comfortable because she knew she could do it. And I said to you, I said, don't worry, she's got this, she's got this. And she did, and she just took over that Ukrainian diver.
Well, let's talk about Sofia Lishkin, because she was the 2019 European champion, and she moved herself into a very strong position with a second dive that had a very high difficulty rating, 3.3, actually more difficult than any of the dives that Andrea Spendolini-Syriacs had. I'm loving the panda swimming costume, by the way.
Yeah, not many girls do this dive because, you know, back 3.5 is really, really difficult, but she punches out at the entry and she gets her arms back and she's able to do a really, really good dive at the end there. And it's a brave dive to do as a woman.
Why is it so difficult?
Well, you take off, you've got to get a real high jump, and then you've got to spin as fast as you can in such a tiny little tuck shape and know where you are in the air. It's a tough, tough dive.
That put her into the lead by a wide margin. And it really, I find it so interesting where they put their more difficult dives, who's comfortable doing them early, who wants to leave them till later, where you might slip in an easier one.
I think it's best to always do your hard ones right in the middle because you can start off doing well, it gives you the confidence for the rest of the competition, and you can finish off feeling comfortable. So it's nice to get it done in the middle there, and that's exactly what she did.
Andrea put one of her more difficult dives in as her second dive, a forward 3.5 somersaults in tuck. And how did you feel this went for her?
Well, her first dive was a little bit shaky, so she went in here knowing that she could do really well here, and that's exactly what she did. And being outdoors, it was really hard to spot that entry, and she nailed it. Great takeoff, jumped as high as she could, and in that tiny little tuck shape, look how squeezed her knees are into her chest, and she punched out for the water.
And with the inward dives, I'm always so worried about them hitting something on the platform.
She's quite far away from the board there, so which is great to be safe. I'd rather it be a little bit further away than close. So she doesn't need to worry about her head hitting the board there.
If we look at her arm stand, which was the third dive that she put in, you were slightly concerned on this at how far away from the edge of the board her hands were.
Yeah, I wouldn't like to put my hands any further because otherwise when she punches off at the beginning, she can be quite close to the board. So her hands, for me, I'd like them a little bit closer to the end. But we did see a little bit of a big push at the end, and it's nothing to worry about. She used her arms to take off and basically tucked her head in at the end and went a tiny little bit over. But the strength you need in that handstand is crazy.
And are the wristbands there for protection or rather than because there's an injury or a weakness?
Protection. The amount of dives we do on 10 metre, you can get bad wrists and triceps, and that's there to protect your wrists.
Rounds of dives complete, and the current standings on the scoreboard for you now.
Always difficult to go last because you kind of know it's all on you. You know what you need to do. And as she stepped up there for her final dive, again, a very difficult one, difficulty rating of 3.2, she knew if I nail this, the gold medal is mine. There was just a tiny weeny opening from the Ukrainian diver, from Lishkin, because she'd put in an easier dive towards the end.
That's it. I mean, going last for anyone is probably the worst place to be because you can see everyone else doing well in front of you. And today, there's a few divers that didn't do so well, so the pressure was off for her and the Ukrainian diver today. But, yeah, she knew she could put that one in and just take the Ukrainian.
We'll have another look at it. Back 2.5 somersaults, 1.5 twists in pike. Called it as soon as she entered the water, said, that's it, that will be enough. You called it. And the rest of us are all going, can we just wait for the score? And that's a nervy moment, but the judges absolutely agreeing that she was the standout performer and she's the European champion. But what a way to do it, so tense.
I know, like she saved it to the end, you know, she was right up there, But if you know you're going to take the last dive and absolutely nail it, why not leave it to last? Make everyone scared, shaking their boots, and that's exactly what she did.
What I also enjoy about watching her is that she looks to enjoy it so much. You don't see tension. She gets on with it. She celebrates when there is a reason to celebrate, and a gold medal obviously is the ultimate reason to celebrate. But frankly, winning a medal against a very strong, particularly a strong Ukrainian opponent, the rest of the field might not be as strong as usual because no Russians. But that is a great achievement.
Oh, of course it is. Of course it is. And like you said, she's so calm, and I think she just takes it all in and enjoys it. And if you have fun in sport, you'll do well in it.
Exactly right. Stay relaxed, enjoy the moment. Tonia, thank you so much. I know you'll be back tomorrow, lots more diving to come, but for now, thank you. And it has been a busy day so far. If you're just joining us...
Oh, so good to watch that again. And watching with me yesterday was, of course, Tonia Couch. She's back again for today. And look, we can talk about Kyle and Lois all day. It was brilliant, a gold medal for them. And like we say, their confidence is going to go sky high because they're such a new partnership.
That's it. What a great start. How awesome. And hopefully the rest of the team can go off that gold medal and feel pumped and ready for the rest of the competition.
And let's talk about the rest of the competition today. The reason why you're here, 3-metre springboard mixed. This is going to be good because we're dealing now with Grace and James. Now, for Grace, she dives with Tom.
Yes.
OK, and here she is now with James. And it's going to be a bit of a different energy and a different dynamic, isn't it? And how difficult will that be for someone like Grace to adjust to?
Yeah, it will be difficult because, you know, James is very, very strong. This is his main board, 3-metre. But Grace is really strong too, so I think it does work really, really well. And they were both from Scotland. They're great friendship, they've got a great friendship, and it does make a huge difference. So they're going to bounce off each other, and they're able to communicate, which is the key thing here.
They would have been buoyed with the confidence from the guys yesterday, but the Ukrainians, again, I'm sure they're going to pose a strong threat maybe here, Tonia.
Of course, and the Germans, and the Italians. Yeah, we've got a few. But I think after last week with the Commonwealth Games, they're going to get some confidence from that.
OK, well, fantastic stuff. Well, we can head out to Rome there, to the pool. Germany, the European champions indeed. A stunning silver, though, for Grace and James. Tonia, you were watching 5 dives in total. We're going to go through some of the dives in a moment, but for Grace and James, this has got to be a really positive step. You know, a partnership that's not necessarily solidified, but here they are at this level doing so well.
That's it. I think they'll be really pleased with the silver. Personally, I think they were marked down a little bit on dive 3 and dive 4. They should have had a bit higher scores, but that, you know, I might be biased. But no, I think they'll be really, really pleased with that. And they've got so much more to give, and it's so exciting how well they're going to be doing.
Well, let's take a look at the 4th dive because, you know, one of the first things you did say, oh, I'm not sure about that score. So let's take a look and see and just talk us through this dive, Tonia.
Yeah, so basically on this dive, I mean, look at the synchro. They twist the same time, their somersaults come out at the same time, and the judges only gave it, I think it was like a 7, 7.5, which personally I think they should have got in the 8s. But look at that. And the fact that it's in slow motion and they are still in sync says it all.
But the thing is, I remember you saying to me yesterday, in terms of the judges, they don't necessarily have the playback. They don't get to see it. It is down to the naked eye. And how much of that is frustrating for divers, especially if they know that they probably could have been marked a bit higher.
I know. Sometimes they just look at the entry. But, yeah, it's a good thing that they don't see it in slow motion because we might be scoring 3s later on down the line. So we don't need that. But, yeah, no, it's crazy how fast they've got to be on it.
And the 5th dive as well, it was a good dive, but not enough to be able to just snatch that gold medal.
Yes, James's hurdle step was a little bit on the edge of the board, so he did come off too much on the side, and that did cost him the gold medal. But he normally does front 4.5 somersaults, so the fact that he has to take a somersault away from this to match Grace is huge, and that means he's got to train pretty much double the amount of dives as everybody else. So he still nailed it, considering he had a bad takeoff.
And it's interesting that you talk about the dive that he has to adjust. You know, in my simple mind, it actually makes it sound like it should be an easier thing to do. But for him, I guess the muscle memory, the training, maybe brings on some challenges.
Of course. You know, you practice your 4.5 dive over and over and over again, different takeoff, different throw, and then have to bring it back. It's hard to control, and he controlled it on a bad hurdle, so that's amazing.
I mean, Grace, she's super experienced at this level. She knows what to be able to do here. She normally, of course, dives with Tom Daley. What are the challenges for someone like Tom? He said he's taking some time out, he's sitting at home, he's watching that. I'm sure cheering them on, but at the same time, you know, that's a partnership that I'm guessing he wants to protect, maybe.
Yeah, of course, but for Tom, his specialty is platform, so I don't know what he's thinking, and it's not in the Olympics just yet, so I'm sure he'll be at home cheering these guys on.
Oh, he's absolutely fine then, he's just chilling at home. Tina Punzel, though, from Germany, she's one of the combination of that gold-winning pair. The medals, it says it all. She's won so many, she's so experienced, and we saw it with some of the dives here today. I think we can take a look at her 4th round dive, and the German's so clean, so efficient with it.
Yeah, I mean, she's so consistent, and I think that's exactly what you need as a diver. And her synchro partner, completely the same, pulled back down the dive from doing a 4.5 to a 3.5. And they were both a little bit over, but the whole way through this competition, they were so consistent, and their synchro was fantastic.
No, it is brilliant to watch, and you could hear the crowd. They really enjoyed that as well. And someone like Tina Punzel here, she comes into this competition, like we say, with the experience. This isn't necessarily in the Olympics, but again, what is the benefit? Why come to this champs and do an event like this and not focus on an Olympic event, maybe?
I think it's good fun. You know, it's nice to take a little bit of seriousness back and enjoy a competition with one of your friends. And I've never actually done mixed synchro with these guys before, but I've heard from the others that they just love it.
Yeah.
And I think that's so nice to have.
The 5th dive as well for the Germans. We sat here, we both kind of was like, yeah, round of applause, well done, guys. You just know straight away, as soon as they come up off the board, it was perfect.
That's it. They saved their best dive to last, and it proves today that they deserve that gold medal.
How challenging is that for you, though, Tonia, knowing that you're last out and there's a level of pressure? We saw it with Kyle yesterday, didn't we? Kyle Kothari, the slow motion, we saw him shaking a bit, and there's a lot on the line. Like, how is that for the guys that come up last?
It depends. Sometimes they don't look at where they are placed at the end, so they probably not look at the scoreboard. Some people do, some people don't. So if they do and they know that they had to do a certain dive to win, that's when it gets really, really nerve-wracking.
And of course, for them, the Germans, it's really good. We talk about this build-up towards the Olympic Games. We talk about the confidence of teams. Great for the Germans, but again, another medal on the board for GB. And again, we speak, Tonia, about the fact that this is a team whereby, you said it yesterday, we don't often get to see diving as much as we have done over the last few weeks. They're going to love this moving forward.
Absolutely. That's all that people are seeing right now on TV is diving, diving, diving. I remember back in the day that diving wasn't even shown. When I first started, I think I was going into my seniors probably at age 16, nobody even knew what diving was. So like now it's so big and it's so beautiful to watch. So I'm so pleased it's on TV.
And then we're getting to see personalities. We're getting to see some of the names as well, which is really cool as well because, you know, look, you can see people are having fun. And how important is it for you, actually, that diving at this level is really shown to people and for young people who maybe want to get into it as well?
Definitely, and especially for the young people. Yeah, I think everyone at home want to be basically what these guys are on TV, and it's anyone's game. These guys should come into their local sports place and try diving because not only is it amazing, it's great fun. You make the most amazing friends. You travel the world. Yeah, it's just fantastic.
Well, one person we did see during the Commonwealth Games as part of the England diving team was Andrea Spendolini-Syriacs, and she was absolutely amazing because she's only 17 years old, and she'll be up next in the diving pool on the platform. We can take a look at her.
England's Andrea Spendolini-Syriacs, 17 years old and a Commonwealth champion.
That's the result you get from working hard.
What a dive to finish on. Yes! That is definitely a silver medal dive. Wow, what a dive. And it's gold for Andrea and Noah, without a doubt. Unbelievable. That is the dive of the competition.
She lives and breathes diving.
I feel like a king.
Andrea Spendolini-Syriacs.
It's exhilarating, it's incredible, and it's crazy.
I mean, the absolute time of her life. I'm thinking that she's going to be expecting her A-level results pretty soon. But what a summer for her, Tonia. And again, she'll go in the platform final in a moment. And for her, this is a great summer. We speak about development. How much will she take away from this summer and learn about herself?
Oh, I mean, so much. And by the looks of it, she's having the time of her life. And she just needs to keep doing that. Don't let pressure get to her. Enjoy every moment, because the older you get, the more pressure happens. It's crazy. So I just want her to stay in this bubble and keep doing what she's doing, because she's doing fantastic.
Oh, brilliant stuff. We're going to talk about her a bit more in a moment and her chances in.
Really well in the relays so far. I'm delighted to say that joining me here in the studio is former European champion Tonia Couch to look ahead to the women's 10-metre platform final. And we have, Tonia, 2 British divers in this, Andrea Spendolini-Siriex, and your old partner, Lois Tolson. How did they get on in qualifying?
Yeah, they did really, really well, nice and steady, and that's what we're looking for. We don't want them to use their best dives straight away. So we've got a first from Andrea and 4th for Lois.
We'll have a look at Andrea in action, because she sort of sprung to the forefront, as it were, when she was very, very young. She was Young Sports Personality of the Year. She's had a terrific year so far and seems to be relishing the high-pressure big events.
Yeah, I mean, she handles the pressure really well, actually. It's a great year for her. On a hard dive, she still comes out and nails it, and it's tough doing it in an outdoor diving pool.
Yeah, conditions there look pretty good, thankfully, because were there a strong wind or rain, you'd be thinking, oh, this doesn't look much fun.
Oh, that changes everything with the wind, especially in a handstand. So it looks really good condition, thank goodness.
She was more than 9 marks ahead of all of the others in qualification, so we'll go in there as favoured, we'll dive last. She's used to that position now, and it's amazing how quickly she's learned, because she went to the Tokyo Olympics last year as the youngest member of the British team, and already you can see the experience of consecutive big events makes her just that bit more confident.
It does. I think the more competitions you do, the more experience and feel better and more like chilled about yourself, and it does make a difference. Unfortunately, for the people that are injured and they haven't had a big competition run through the year, it does set them back a bit. So keep doing the competitions and she'll get more experience that way.
The difference with this competition is we've got no Russian divers because they're banned, no Chinese divers, obviously, because they're not European. So she's going in there as the marked person, if you like, and that's very different. She's so far been sort of the youngest one, or the one that's not considered, and has been able to spring surprises. This is going to be an interesting one this afternoon.
Yeah, I think she's probably not watching too much that goes on in the media, because that's probably the best way to do it. I used to not focus what's going on behind me and just stay in your bubble, and I think that's exactly what she's going to do.
And maybe it's helpful to her that her father, Fred Siriex, is a very well-known personality, used to dealing with, you know, cameras snapping at him or headlines being made about him. He's the host and maitre d' of First Dates, and people will have seen him on the TV. So she's had that, you know, she understands what attention looks like.
I think that's going to help her in her sport, 100%. You know, she's had pressure on her for a young age because of her father. So, yeah, maybe it's going to work well for her. So thank goodness for that, really.
Let's have a chat about Lois Tolson, and who was as young as Andrea is now, if not a little younger, when you were teaming up with her. And she's qualified here, is it 4th or 5th?
Yes, 4th.
4th. What are you thinking about her chances of maybe getting a medal?
I think it's a nice spot to be in, because if she puts a great dive down, the pressure's on for the rest of them. She came in young, just like Andrea, and obviously when you get older, the pressure is harder, and I think maybe she's feeling that little bit of pressure now, especially when the youngster comes up and takes your place. But she has so much talent, so much talent. Look how high and beautiful that dive is. She just needs to smash it on the day, and then she'll be up there with the rest of the guys.
It seems that the synchro events have really helped both of them. They've had good experiences in mixed synchro events at the Commonwealth Games, for example. And the more you dive in competition, with all of that training that you put in, because obviously you train for how many hours a day, roughly?
5.
5 hours a day, every day of the week?
Apart from Sunday.
So 6 days of the week, 5 hours a day, training, training, training. That's a lot of impact on your body. Going into competitions, is that sometimes not easier, because obviously you're being judged, but is there less diving for you?
Yes, there's probably less gym work. You know, there's a lot of gymnastics, trampoline and weights, but when you get to a competition, you back off on that a little bit, so there's less training. So, yeah, I suppose it would be easier in that way. Who
should we see as the other major contenders in this final?
Ukraine. The young girl looks pretty good, but as long as Lois and Andrea puts the dives in, they'll put the pressure on her.
Sofia Liskin is her name. And the Ukrainians have a very strong diving team. I mean, it's a sport that they take very seriously. We saw a really emotional win in the pool yesterday for Romanchov in the 1,500 metres. He spoke afterwards.